Rachel, somebody that I hope that everybody knows who they are is John Lennon, because John Lennon apparently has a biopic coming out. That's right, a biopic about John Lennon is actually in development, which I think would be great because he did have a great career, tragic ending. And, if you're going to do something, then people might say, like, why are we doing this? But I think that it could be good. I mean, I don't know who's going to play John Lennon. It might be very tough, but the film would focus on the immediate period after the Beatles breakup. Fuck yeah, Daniel Radcliffe. But right after they break up the Beatles, that's supposed to take place, tackling Lennon's solo career and his relationship with Yoko Ono. That's apparently where they're saying about. Ono is actually a consultant and a producer on the film. Craig Lipsey, Lars and the Real Girl, I, Tanya, Cruella is attached to be the director. And they had that 2009 movie Nowhere Boy. It stars Aaron Tyler Johnson, but it's going to be something different from that. Apparently, it's actually going to dive into his life, his relationship, and where his career went until his actual death via that fucking tragic day we had with him losing his life. But for me, I'm like, it sounds like it could be kind of interesting, especially because a lot of people don't know his story. And now at times passed a long time. I know Sabrina's a big Beatles fan, though. So I don't know, Sabrina, would you want to see something like this? Do you think it's fine to happen? I know you love John Lennon. Do you think it'd be good to actually have someone portray him and make a movie based off his life after the Beatles?
If it's done well, absolutely. If it's done poorly, then it's a disservice to his existence as an amazing human being and also a huge contributor to the evolution of rock and roll. So I guess it just depends. Racer X, absolutely. I agree with you 110%. I love that fucking shirt. I own it.
He's looking at you, Sabrina.
I have a picture. Hey, buddy. Am I going the wrong way? Is it this way? I can't tell.
There you go,
I'm
that
not
way,
looking at the camera. Is it this way?
That way.
This way. It doesn't look that way on the screen, which is very confusing. I agree with Racer X. The Beatles, I don't think they wouldn't have existed. I don't think they wouldn't have been as talented or as successful, I guess I should say. And I do think that the Beatles had a very big evolution.
Very talented.
And it evolved with the music itself. They started very poppy and boy bandy, and then they kind of went into a drug phase, and the actual music itself was it was a shift in the way things were done at that time. Same thing with Bob Dylan. He brought electric basically into rock. There's a lot of things that wouldn't have happened without a band like the Beatles, and there was always Beatles or the Stones. And it's not that I don't like the Stones. I think they're also wildly talented, but that evolution is not there in their music. It's all great, but there's not that evolution of the times and with the times, and I just, John Lennon's always been my favorite Beatle. If they do it right, I would really, really love to fucking see it, honestly.
Yeah, I think it could be great.
But it's going to be hard. I nominate Daniel Radcliffe, though. I think he could nail John Lennon.
He's short, but man, I think he can do anything he wants.
Yeah, fuck yeah, John. Yeah.
He's got the facials.
But can he sing? Daniel Radcliffe, does he sing? I don't know. But
we have a question. Is anybody an Elvis fan here?
Yeah, Elvis is freaking great.
For the film.
That's a good question.
Racer X, the artist or the film?
Elvis the person, Elvis the music, Elvis the film.
Yeah, those are three very different questions.
Very big questions. Yes, Mike, get in there.
Let us know and we'll answer your question.
Elvis the music, thumbs up. Elvis the film.
Elvis music.
Thank you. I'm of the same boat. Do we know this Racer X character?
No, we don't, but thank you for joining us. Love you.
Thank you for being here.
Avatar.
I like your energy. You're asking good questions. You're doing good things.
Yeah, appreciate you being here.
Bring it on, brah.
But when you give us
is a good point to bring up. I think every single Elvis biopic has not done it well. There has not been a true good Elvis biopic. And I think I have the same concerns with John Lennon. We have this tendency to overly romanticize people that we admire. And these are human beings at the end of the day. John Lennon was a very flawed human being at the end of the day. No matter how good of an artist he was, he had a lot of personal problems. And if you overlook those personal problems, you're not telling his story faithfully and accurately. And it's the same problem that we've seen with every single biopic that has come out in the last 10 years, basically, where we just overly sugarcoat, overly romanticize, and leave out the ugly parts. And I think it's very important to include the ugly parts. And that's my biggest concern with the John Lennon biopic, is people really tend to over romanticize him a lot, more than most other pop culture figures.
Really?
I mean, he was a little heavy-handed with a couple of women, at least on a couple of documented occasions, right? Is that not the case?
So like, and him and his son had a
Julian.
He was abusive towards his son at points, from what I understand, and women.
I think he was just absent with his son. I don't think he was abusive. I don't know.
I mean, absenteeism it's not physically abusive, but it is not.
Right.
It's not.
But I mean,
just
coming from, trust me, I know. Believe me, I'm a product of that. But like, from going from like being like he was heavy-handed with women to saying that he was abusive to his son. I was just assuming that was the same relation. So I was just clarifying that. Yeah. No.
Sabrina Stod, Tonguestruck.
We have Yoko Ono as one of the producers, so I think that Rachel's concern rings very strong, especially in terms of like
she has been really protective over his legacy, which I respect
100%.
as his wife. I respect that as somebody who cared about him.
Can I just have one quick point, Rachel, before you go on, very quickly? Mm-hmm. She also is largely said the person who broke up the Beatles.
People say that.
Right, exactly.
People do say
That's
that.
another confounding factor.
But like I do feel like Yoko Ono kind of got too much shit just for being a woman around a powerful man. But that's like a whole different conversation.
I do wonder,
I think he was just desperate.
You guys are all fans. Like I'm a big fan of John Lennon's post Beatles output, like Double Fantasy.
Me too.
Like,
Me too. Double Fantasy is great
album. I guess I wanted to ask you guys how you felt about that.
I mean, I love Double Fantasy. I just feel like she got a lot of flack, like Rachel was saying. Like, I'm like kind of bringing it back to her, I guess, but like because he fell desperately in love with her, and that's all he wanted, and they were upset that he didn't want to be as involved and doing all of the things that he had been doing for so many years, and that what he did through his first wife. Like he was just, he wanted to be with her. He wanted to spend, 7 days in bed to support peace. He wanted to do all of these, weird things that like they were not used to him being that way. And like, I think that people are threatened by change, and they tend to blame people who are probably not culpable for that. You know what I mean?
And the Beatles may have just run their course by that time. It may have been a time for them to go their own separate ways and do their own separate projects. And I feel like Yoko Ono gets a lot of really undue hate for that.
But exactly what Razor X said in the chat. Yeah. Holler.
But we wouldn't have great songs like I got my mind set on you. Like, you know what I mean? You might get songs like that,
George Harrison.
Oh, George Harrison. I mean, you wouldn't get that song though, too, because they broke up when that happened,
MS Paint art.
What?
Look up Ringo Starr MS Paint art. It is fantastic.
I think their music also does still hold up, Razor X, honestly.
I think it totally holds up, and I think
he literally is the least talented person in the Beatles by far, and he got that job by default. But he is like still there the whole entire time, like this.
I will be a Ringo apologist until I die.
Dude, I love Ringo.
I love him. I have no problem with saying.
Leave Ringo alone.
Leave Ringo alone.
Don't Britney.
Leave Ringo alone.
Leave Ringo alone. Leave Ringo alone. And one regular drum and one cymbal.
Leave Ringo alone.
I think this film will be about as accurate as Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, and that's pretty much where I'm going to leave that.
Yeah, well, I just think Austin Butler. I feel like
that's not the case.
I feel like Austin Butler. He did it all right as Elvis, but overall, I'm like, it was a lot.
His acting was fine. It was the writing of the story.
They left out a lot of the things. Right.
Yeah, and it was missing some for me.
Girl thing and. Yeah,
I like Baz Luhrmann, but it's a lot for me.
Like back then, that wasn't like. I mean, people were like
back then she was still 14. It wasn't
right, but people were betrothed to be married at that age in many cultures at that time. You know what I mean? Like that's a thing.
Not in America.
Well, not in America, but I'm just saying that is the thing. Like
that was the world.
I'm not defending it at all.